Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Diagnosing the Evolving Mobile Threat Landscape. My name is Cindy Sharma, and I'm a product marketer here at Checkpoint. I would like to go over some quick housekeeping items before we begin. All lines have been muted for the duration of today's webinar. However, this is still an interactive webinar, and I would highly suggest using the Q&A located at the bottom of your screen in Zoom. At the end of the webinar, with time permitting, we will answer the questions live and follow up later if we don't get to everyone. Today we will be discussing the latest modes of attack used by hackers to breach enterprise mobile devices, how forward-thinking businesses are protecting their mobile fleet against advanced attacks, and why IDC named SandBlast Mobile the leading mobile threat management solution. I am joined by today's presenter, Brian Gleason, who is the head of mobile security product marketing at Checkpoint, and has over 20 years of experience marketing enterprise software. Without further ado, I'm going to hand it off to Brian. Over to you, Brian.
Thanks so much, Cindy. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. And as Cindy said, we'll be talking about the emerging mobile threat landscape. We are going to talk briefly about what we're calling a Generation 5 cyber attack, and why we consider ourselves in the middle of this epoch, if you will. And then we would like to do an overview of mobile malware and how it is being proliferated around the world. And we will go into some of the research that Checkpoint's own mobile threat research team has conducted over the past 18 months. And then we'd like to make a couple of recommendations about what you might be able to do to protect your business from mobile cyber threats. So without further ado, I'm going to begin now. So as I mentioned, we are in the 5th generation of cyber attacks. This is something that Checkpoint has done, and our researchers, I think, have done a real good job of delineating. But in hindsight, we can now identify the different generations of cyber attacks and how the cybersecurity industry has evolved to defend against them. The technology we use every day, though, has evolved much faster than the security industry and is far outpacing the level of security that organizations have deployed until now. While we're now in the 5th generation of attacks, most organizations, to our recollection, almost 97% of them are only equipped for the 2nd or 3rd generation attacks. This, of course, is a big problem. If you're using 1990 technology against 2017 attack vectors, well, your business might be in danger. So let's talk a little bit about what is a Generation 5 mega attack. So I'm sure many of you have read about how the French elections were hacked but prevented. The NSA hack, Verizon's hack, WannaCry, the ransomware like NotPetya, and then there was Bad Rabbit, and then the Equifax data breach that exposed millions, tens of millions of financial records, and it was just awful. So let's say, let's just define what a Generation 5 attack is. It's large scale. It's global. It hits different countries and industries. It's indiscriminate. And then another characteristic is that it's multi-vector. The attack might involve routines that plumb the network, the cloud, or mobile deployments. It's going right across the board. And then there are state-sponsored technologies. As we know, with the NSA hack, there have been rumors, nothing official, that nation states have leveraged that information. First, to abscond with the NSA information, and then to actually weaponize it. So what does Generation 5 mega cyber attacks mean for mobile security? Well, we're just going to back up for a little bit. And, like with the advancements in mobile technology over the last decade, mobile is overtaking the desktop both in practice and perception amongst today's workforce. 2016 was the first time mobile devices connected to the internet actually exceeded the desktop. And mobile devices have definitely gone corporate. Bring your own device policies are becoming more prevalent and are expected to become even more so as they increase productivity dramatically. And as an example, the BYOD market is estimated to double itself, from the size it held in 2016 by 2021. That's quite astronomical. This is a major change that companies must prepare for with all the necessary precautions. And the bottom line is mobile devices cannot be ignored in the enterprise. They will have an effect on every business's security. And this is an interesting slide here. If we just try to compare mobile devices with PCs, mobile devices are actually more vulnerable than PCs. Unprotected mobile devices expose your corporate network and your corporation to a great deal of risk. If we just take a moment and compare what is currently happening in most organizations, while mobile devices are significantly more vulnerable than PCs and both pose a real risk to your network and corporate assets, organizations today still put a larger emphasis on protecting their PCs. And while PCs are on and connected as needed, mobile devices are switched on 24/7, connected and carried with you constantly. Personally, my phone's on my nightstand even. And, enterprise PCs are primarily used for business purposes, while mobile devices are for both personal and business use cases. This exposes them to additional risks as well as less security-minded usage. And while PCs can be fully managed by network admins who choose which hardware they allowed into their network, it's harder to enforce security policies on mobile devices, which have low patch rates and great diversity between models and manufacturers. Finally, while PCs have a limited amount in variation of software installed, mobile users are constantly installing new and unvetted and risky, I might add, apps. So at the end of the day, once a mobile device is infected, there are many damages that can occur to the company and to the individual, the user, the employee. Employees' mobile devices can be compromised. They can serve as a bridge to break into the corporate network. Employees' locations can be tracked. Corporate emails can be stolen and credentials accessed. Contact lists can be stolen. Activation of the mobile device's microphone could go on, and meetings could be recorded, board meetings, for instance. Just imagine that. Secret activation of a device's camera and photos can be even absconded with, and corporate passwords stolen. Even mobile text messages, and even from other messaging apps. This is just really to name a few. The bottom line is, once a mobile device is hacked, the attacker has access to the crown jewels. So the rise of mobile devices, offers a large attack surface, of which, when combined with the potential mobile devices withhold for attackers, it results in, believe it or not, a flourishing malware industry. And this is a key point. These are not, like individuals in their pajamas, operating out of their bedroom, and they might be 18 years old. We have found that like nation states, and there are organized business concerns, who are promulgating these attacks. And there's something that you can really count on. They are well-financed. They are highly technically proficient, and they have the luxury of time. They can keep working to break into your system. So the mobile malware arena includes many kinds of malware. These are the major malware categories as Checkpoint sees it, found in the wild. First, we have targeted surveillance, which is used mainly by advanced persistent threat groups, such as nation-state hackers, but also by independent entities, such as the hacking team and the NSO group, which sell advanced Trojan horses to the highest bidder, sometimes even on the dark web. This type of malware provides full access to the targeted device, from location to recording the device's surroundings and much more. Also in this category are personal spying tools, which you can all frequently download for free on an app store, whether it's third-party or Google Play, and they're sold as parental control apps. But more often than not, they're used for malicious purposes. Now, the second type of mobile malware that we see here are what we call info stealers, which are usually aimed at stealing financial credentials and using them to steal money or to steal login credentials of the user in order to take over his accounts or sell them to the highest bidder. The most common tactics used for this are key logging and fake overlay pages, which look exactly like a login page or a landing page, and convince the user to provide his or her credentials. And as in the PC world, mobile malware, has also, there's also ransomware for mobile, and it could block the user from using his device or threaten to distribute intimate pictures of them if ransom is not met. The next category are botnets, which are abundant in the mobile arena due to the wide attack surface they provide, with countless devices with minimal or no security. These nefarious malware spread to millions of devices, often through the official app stores, and can be used for a wide range of purposes, from crypto mining to distributed denial of service attacks, and much, much more. The last major category is adware, and it's aimed at gaining revenues by displaying and or clicking illegitimate ads and even installing fraudulent apps. Due to this, shady nature, most security solutions fail to catch them. So while it might seem that mobile malware affects only private users, this is far from true. Mobile attacks have already compromised businesses worldwide, both by intentional attacks on a specific company and by compromising the integrity and security of devices connected to corporate networks. Even if an ordinary malware is responsible for rooting a device, it can directly affect the security of the organization. When a device is rooted, it is or jailbroken, it is essentially stripping the device from all of its built-in security and its OS. The situation is similar to having a PC without any protection whatsoever. connected to your network. You'd never dream of doing something that and just relying on good luck as a defense. Furthermore, mobile devices can expose credentials even more so than PCs, as they enable attackers to bypass things like two-factor authentication, which sends a verifying code to the user's mobile device. A hacker with access to the device can steal not only the username and password, but also the one-time passcode generated for each login. And last, and by far from least, since 2016, we've witnessed a new type of malware capable of gaining access to internal networks. In this case, the threat to the enterprise is critical, as a single device could compromise the entire network without anyone even knowing it. Now, let's move on for some examples here. The first case of malware rooting devices is the infamous Hummingbird malware. Hummingbird is not a private operation, and it was, as I discussed earlier, and it was developed by a Chinese company specializing in ad technology. I kid you not, they had the advertising agency on one side of the house and the bad guys exploiting the network, exploiting mobile devices on the other side. The malware managed to infect over 10 million devices in its first release, and many more since then. As part of its operation to gain ad revenue, it rooted infected devices, stripping them from their security and leaving them completely open, for any sort of attack. On top of that, the malware installed other malicious apps which could compromise the user's security even further. It is not enough to just have one unsecured device connected to a network to allow a hacker to take it over easily. Now, Copycat is another example of a nefarious malware that achieved the highest rooting rate known to date. Almost 60% of infected devices were successfully rooted. Copycat served fraudulent ads to users and installed millions of apps fraudulently. It also used a cutting-edge technique to claim the revenue for installing other apps, which it did not, in fact, install, thereby, earning the bad guys money from various ad networks. These are, between, Copycat and Hummingbird, these are two examples of a prospering industry that literally owned millions and millions of devices. Now, as far as credential theft is concerned, this other category of malware, mobile malware that we were talking about, is just as capable as their PC cousins, if not more. The first example of mass credential theft by a mobile malware was Gooligan. And this occurred in, I think it was December 2016 that we published this. A malware that breached the security over 1 million Google accounts, which amounted to the largest Google account theft to date. The malware used an innovative tactic to acquire the authentication token for Google accounts. With this token, attackers could access every app that the user was subscribed to on Google, including Google Suite, which is their business suite. Now, the second example are what we call mobile bankers, which present an entirely legitimate login page, as the kind you see right here, of the user's banking app. The user, who doesn't suspect a thing because of the identical login page that he sees or she sees, will enter his credentials right into the hands of the hacker. Mobile bankers are also capable of intercepting two-factor authentication messages and bypassing most security measures that were designed to prevent PC banker malware. The frightening part about this kind of mobile bankers are they can just as easily create a fake overlay page that would look identical to a corporate network entry page or an email service login. So I was telling you about Checkpoint's dedicated mobile research team. This is one of, dress code is another one of their very significant discoveries. And it was embedded into more than 40 apps and found in more than 400 additional apps on third-party app stores. Between 500,000 and 2 million users downloaded the malicious apps directly from Google Play. Once installed on the device, dress code initiated communication with its command and control server. When the attacker wants to activate the malware, he can turn the device into a proxy, rerouting the traffic. This means the attacker can reroute traffic from an internal network and access internal resources. Just for the sake of conversation, how often do malware enter Google Play? In 2017 alone, Checkpoint discovered a malware that reached a spread of about 35 million to 106 million users, most of whom downloaded the malware directly from 300 plus apps on Google Play, Google's official app store. So what we have here is a video of dress code, and what you're seeing is right here is the installation process. It's your garden variety app. And you get this on your device, and you slug in your name, and this is what's going on in the background. The bad guys are looking for a handshake, and they establish communication. Then very quickly they can make a file request, and that file request directly goes to your enterprise servers, and these file requests are immediately sent to the hacker. You could have financial reports, board meetings, all sorts of IP can get stolen this way. And again, this is called dress code. This is a perfect example of how mobile malware could penetrate enterprise networks. So as we've seen, mobile malware can have a dangerous effect on corporate networks. Once hackers hold corporate email or container credentials, root a device, jailbreak a device, or create proxied IP, they can cause damages to the enterprise that are real and substantial. They can access corporate file servers. They could infect the rest of the network by abusing a rooted device, and they access the data center after obtaining VPN credentials, and so on, and so on, and so on. So last year we did some research, and it was I'll give you a little background on it. Our mobile threat research team prepared this, and it was actually the first study that was designed to understand the impact of mobile attacks in enterprise environments. We assessed actual threat telemetry of corporate-owned and bring-your-own-devices, and we're able to grasp mobile attacks really, by the numbers. So how did we do this? The data in this particular report, which we will send you a link after this webinar, so that you could see the replay of this webinar and download this report. So we, the data in this report was collected from deployments of Checkpoint SandBlast Mobile in 850 organizations that secured a minimum of 500 devices, and the duration was from July 2016 to July 2017. And actually, the results were quite stark. Enterprise mobility, we learned, from this rather considerable sample, 850 organizations is a lot. And we've determined that enterprise mobility is under constant attack, affecting all regions and industries on both major mobile platforms, Android and iOS. Each organization in our sample experienced at least one mobile malware attack during the past year. That said, the average number of mobile malware attacks we found was about 54. So, as I said, each organization in our sample experienced at least one mobile malware attack, and the average was 54. Organizations suffer from different types of mobile attacks beyond malware. 89% experienced at least one man-in-the-middle attack over a Wi-Fi network. Even though enterprise mobility management, or MDM solutions were in place with all of these businesses, 75% of the organizations in our sample had at least one jailbroken iOS device or rooted Android device connected to their corporate networks. The average number of rooted or jailbroken devices in our sample was 35 per company. That's a lot, especially since one is all it takes. So according to our study, mobile malware, hit government and financial services the most. Financial services came in at 29%, and government, slightly less, 26%. And, they experienced the most mobile malware attacks, far beyond their proportional representation in the sample we analyzed. Both industries offer valuable caches for attackers, such as large repositories of financial and personal information. And then technology firms were also heavily impacted by mobile malware. And now, where does mobile malware impact most businesses? Well, as you can see, the Americas was the most impacted region in our study sample. And it was composed, quite frankly, primarily of companies in the United States. Asia Pacific accounted for a third of all mobile attacks in our sample, despite a smaller representation. This can be explained by several mass malware campaigns, that have targeted Southeast Asia, during the past year. Just like, we were talking about Hummingbird and Copycat. These things were quite prolific in Asia. However, the bottom line, really, what we could glean from this is that businesses in all regions are heavily impacted by mobile malware, making it difficult to ignore this troubling trend. Now, we talked about industries, and as you can see, regulated industries are regulated for a reason. Financial services, banks, brokerages, insurers, they were really hit by the most iOS malware. Again, both platforms, suffer from these kinds of attacks, with the government customers that we had accounting for about 20%. So essentially, in closing, the thrust of this report is that every company is under some form of attack, mobile attack, that is. And most affected industries are financial services and government, and the most mobile attacks occur on businesses in the Americas. And contrary to popular belief, iOS devices are not immune to breaches. And while, just to qualify that, the vast majority of attacks are on Android devices. So, it's a wild and woolly mobile threat landscape out there. What can we do about that? How can we protect our mobile fleet? SandBlast Mobile is the leading threat defense solution to prevent mobile cyber attacks. And I'd like to just talk about it very, very briefly. SandBlast Mobile provides protection against all the known and emerging Generation 5 threat vectors, including zero-day malware. That's known and unknown malware. Stuff that just was created created yesterday, SandBlast Mobile can detect. Infected apps that have had malware injected into them. That might be a game that your kids download onto your device, onto your iPad that you use for work, or your phone. We're detecting that, as well as man-in-the-middle attacks over Wi-Fi, attacks that exploit Bluetooth on the device, drive-by malware. When the user is going to a website that might be malicious, and using a native web browser, SandBlast Mobile picks that up, as well as phishing attacks on all messaging apps, not just SMS, but things like WhatsApp and Telegram, and what have you, as well as iMessage and stuff, and attacks that leverage OS exploits, OS vulnerabilities. SandBlast Mobile picks those up, and if some attacker has messed with a device's settings. So this is how SandBlast Mobile works, and I promise not to belabor this, but this is how Checkpoint SandBlast Mobile is essentially composed of three components. There's a client app that we call SandBlast Protect, and that's installed on an Android or iOS device. The second part is a cloud-based analysis, an intelligence system known as the behavioral risk engine. That's the cloud there, and then the third and final part is the administrative dashboard. Used to monitor and control the organization's mobile fleet in real time. In this ecosystem, threats are detected both on the device and in the cloud, with a prime objective of maximum security with no impact on usability, such as battery, privacy, and other things. The on-device analysis that SandBlast Mobile done includes jailbreaking and rooting, operating system exploits, Wi-Fi, man-in-the-middle network attacks, and messaging attacks, as I alluded to before, either on Telegram or WhatsApp or iMessage. And the in-depth application analysis used to detect malicious apps is conducted in the cloud, in our behavioral risk engine, and includes in part the most advanced technologies such as dynamic app sandbox emulation, app reputation, threat intelligence, advanced code flow analysis, and as well as antivirus feeds, for these known threats. Finally, the management console offers end-to-end threat landscape monitoring capabilities and alerts administrators of potential risks to the organization, and controls the security of the corporate assets and network. So SandBlast Mobile is also getting live threat intelligence feeds from Threat Cloud, which is the world's largest IOC database. And you know, this is how we do things with our phishing prevention in milliseconds. So we recognize that usability is a leading priority, you know, for many organizations. You know, therefore, SandBlast Mobile is extremely simple to deploy. It will not impact. You know, it literally can be you know, deployed in a day or so, and since most of the analysis work is done in the cloud and not on the device, SandBlast Mobile Protect Act does not impact the device performance and battery life. You know, the app runs seamlessly in the background and does not interfere with the user actions unless a malicious activity or threat is detected. To protect user privacy, the app never collects or examines content or files. This is, you know, actually, you know, GDPR compliant as well. It doesn't really impact us here in North America, but companies doing business in Europe. Instead, you know, SandBlast Mobile examines critical risk indicators found in anonymous data it collects. You know, finally, you know, to maximize mobility, the solution is fully integrated with a range of market-leading EMM and MDM and container solutions. The EMMs offer a policy management capability naturally, but without detecting there is an issue. Disconnecting a device from the organization assets is useless. So MDM, EMM, and container policies are static and don't change with the security posture of a device. By integrating with these systems, SandBlast Mobile dynamically changes access privileges, you know, to reflect current risk levels, transforming static management policies into active device protection. Now, the SandBlast Mobile Protect app can be automatically distributed and installed on the employee's devices, you know, through the EMM or MDM, and the integration between SandBlast Mobile and the EMM platform is simple, requiring only just a few easy setup steps. And integrations include the following. You know, it's basically the best and the brightest of all EMM platforms: Mobile Iron, AirWatch, MOS 360, Citrix and Mobile, Good, Bez, BlackBerry, that is, and Microsoft Intune. So, in summary, you know, with all of this, you know, amazing research, you know, it's clear now more than ever that mobile cyber attacks impact every business and are expected to continue to grow in proportion and sophistication in the upcoming years. These Generation 5 attacks are serious. They're highly technical, and the attackers are highly resourced, and they are complex. Stakeholders can either deny the risk or choose to see what is happening in their organization. What can they do about this? These unique challenges require unique solutions, and only comprehensive solutions that can analyze behavior across all the threat vectors for indicators of attack can protect mobile devices effectively and keep users, employees that is, and the business safe. Checkpoint SandBlast Mobile is a multi-layered security infrastructure that provides comprehensive protection. It identifies threats using on-device, network, and cloud-based algorithms and triggers automatic defense responses. Its cloud-based risk engine identifies suspicious patterns in behaviors over time by sandboxing apps and an emulator and detecting threats at device, app, and network levels. So, the latest SandBlast Mobile, provides enhanced prevention capabilities with a focus on targeted attacks, through its new anti-phishing capabilities and use of artificial intelligence, for preventing targeted malware attacks. In addition, it promotes a smoother rollout and adoption because the UX is, so clean and simple. You don't even know SandBlast Mobile is on your device until you run into a problem, and a simple alert will advise you on what action to take. Even more mobility management with vast DMM integration options and deployment. Yeah, we cover all the EMM platforms.
And with that, we are going to go ahead and conclude today's webinar. I would like to go ahead and thank Brian for presenting today's webinar and all of the attendees for participating. Be sure to check out our upcoming webinar on April 26th for Checkpoint's 2018 Security Report, and be on the lookout for an email shortly with a webinar replay. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Simi.